so happy to have a group of friends, new friends, and new long time future friends. And the Wilburton is a very special place because I say I feel like a seashell collector. We never know who washes up on our shore. And today is just another day at the Wilburton Inn, but we've got such a beautiful group of people here. So will you just say your name and where you're from?
I'm Nada. With Michael, my husband, we started High Class Living magazine in 1984, and we've been blessed to go places, write about wonderful things, and very happy to be here now and experience this majestic place, and especially it makes it more perfect and more special because of Melissa and her father and the whole family atmosphere and love and warmth that you feel in this place. It's not enough to have a mansion. It's important who lives in the mansion and what you feel when you come and stay in the mansion. Sometimes we've been all over the world at magnificent places that we felt that we couldn't wait to just leave because it was impersonal. So this is what makes the difference. And I always say that people enrich people's life, not only the places that they see.
Well, thank you so much.
And I'm Carol Morano, editor at Psychology Today and author in New York.
And it's her birthday. Come on, we have
It
to
was
say.
my birthday.
She celebrated her birthday with us, and it was so wonderful that you came.
All right, just quickly identify yourselves.
Van?
I think, as I said before, my claim to fame is the photographer that brought me here, my son Evan Sepro, and I'm so glad he did because this is a unique experience in my life. I've never been to an inn like this, a place like this, and it's not just the physical place that's unique, but the people that make it what it is today. And I've been here less than a day, and I'm overwhelmed by it already. And I thank you so much.
I'm Gail Richard. I'm from the seacoast of New Hampshire, and I'm here with my significant other, Michael Thiel. We run a company called Hideaways International since 1979, and we search the world for hidden gems. And this is our first time here, but this is truly a hidden gem, and I look forward to all it has to offer, and so far I'm loving it.
I'm Michael Rodriv, Nada's husband. We traveled the world, as she said, and I never heard about Wilburton Inn before, and I'm happy that we got an email and we saw the place. I said, looks good, and when we came here we were amazed, and the people, as you said, it's not like a regular inn. We connected with Melissa in an instant, and her dad, and the rest is history.
Hi, Jeff Fox is my name, and I'm here obviously at invitation to do some work, but I would have been here regardlessly because it's an incredible place. They're incredible people, and I come to expect nothing less than extraordinary out of this. And I met Dr. Levis, I think on my last, I may have met him both visits, but I met him last visit and had an opportunity to spend some time with him and take some portraits with him, and he was kind enough to give me several of his books. Which I have to admit I haven't fully read all of them yet, but I dipped into his information, and I'm fascinated. I'm really excited to learn more about this and to get to know some more very interesting people, which I have no doubt this group is extraordinary. So thank you, I really appreciate it.
I'm going into my senior year of high school, and this is an extremely welcoming and open and friendly environment, and I love it already.
Thank you for coming. I'm Rose, and I'm Jeff's wife and Serena's mama. And Jeff brought me up here for the first time when he came up, and I didn't really know what to expect, except that I knew that I loved Vermont. And the minute I met Melissa, it was a unique, beautiful connection. She had true heart and soul, and her family's just beautiful. The inn is gorgeous, but I think what really makes this place is the beautiful family that they have. And I have to say kudos to Dr. Levis because you did an absolutely beautiful job raising these great, great human beings. And and by trade, I'm a social worker, therapist, but I haven't worked in a while due to medical illness. So I've had a chance to really put all my heart and soul into being a mama, which is the best thing that's ever happened for me. So, but this is my third time up here with Jeff, my husband, and every single time I just fall more and more in love with it. I know that whenever I see Melissa's posts on Instagram or Facebook, I'm like, oh, why am I not there right now to be there and experience that? That's how much I love it. This is just a really, truly special place. And, that doesn't just happen random. It happens because there's beautiful souls, beautiful people that really want to give of themselves, and make it a wonderful experience. So I'm really, thank you.
I'm Mike Teal, and I founded Hideaways International about 38 years ago. We were the original HomeAway or Airbnb, actually, combining peer-to-peer vacation home rentals, which we discovered the same people that you've probably discovered, the same people who like vacation home rentals also like staying at quaint country inns and hideaways, which is sort of we migrated and combined the two into a travel club format. And it's unique that you have a place here that combines both the inn and the vacation rentals. Everybody else has said everything that I think almost needs to be said about the wonderful family that runs this place. So I won't repeat all that, but it's the people that make the place.
Thank you.
I'm Karen Feld, and I'm a writer. Melissa was kind enough to invite me to write about this. I did a political column out of DC for like 40 years in television, and I kind of transitioned. I moved to New York 6 years ago, and I've been freelancing and doing mostly travel writing and some entertainment stuff. Since then, I also have a house in Maine, so I'm kind of between the three cities and travel all over the world, but I have never been to this part of Vermont. And it's wonderful. It's like right in your backyard almost. And it's one of the places I missed, and I had no idea. And this place combines all the things I love. I also sculpt figures and dogs. And so I am involved in the arts, and I've written about art and entertainment, as well as more intellectual topics. And so it just combines everything, and I think it's wonderful. You feel the energy of the innkeepers here and the personality, and that's what makes it.
And I have to say, our dogs brought us together.
Oh, and this is Bellini and Campari. How can I forget?
Because we met at the Javits Center when there were probably a million travel writers and people from all over. They had the hunky men from the Caribbean and the people with ladies from Hawaii. But I brought Jetson. I snuck Jetson into the booth from Vermont. And Karen had her dogs, and so we became friends immediately. And so then that was a couple of years ago. I knew she would be the perfect person to really enjoy all the culture and the relevance of the work, and so I was so happy that she reached out. And she remembered Jetson. So yes. Danielle.
I'm Danielle Claro. I'm a writer and editor. I was so recently with a magazine called Real Simple for a long time. I met Melissa through Abby Ellen, a great writer who I've worked with, and we connected instantly by email, talking about Jetson and other things, motherhood. This is my first time here. I just knew before I came, I knew how it would feel just from talking to Melissa, but it was more than I could imagine. And when I walked in yesterday, I walked into this beautiful singing. There's this beautiful just chorus of professional voices, and I stepped inside and I was so excited to be here. And I just love this place. I would love to sit in every corner and just write. You could just feel the creative energy here, and same as everybody else. I just felt so much warmth from the family, and it's a place that I will recommend to everyone I know and bring everyone I love.
Thank you. I want to introduce you guys to one special man. Kevin, come say hello.
Or do you want me to be?
Come sit over here by Mike by the piano. Or if you guys can switch over, maybe Kevin can join you. So Kevin, oh, that's my Jetson. Kevin was my collaborator at NYU. I went to Brown. Tonight we're going to be performing a musical that I wrote from Brown. Oh, that's peaky. So tonight, you know how they say artists write about what they know? Well, I know my family, and my father inspired my thesis from Brown. And so tonight we're putting on the musical about Brown. And then Kevin and I wrote a musical. Hi guys. Grab Kiki. Come here, my love. Come here.
Yeah, let me just add something very interesting. Just came to my mind. We went to a weekend maybe 25 years ago in Worcester, Massachusetts, that a retreat that used to belong to Deepak Chopra. And
Chopra Center?
Yes. So we were invited to report about the place and what they wanted to do. When people, I mean, it was years ago, but why am I telling you this? Because there were maybe 15 guests at the table, and when you get there, you'd get a massage, and they believe in Ayurvedic medicine, and they put sesame oil over you, and you get pajamas. Everybody looks the same, and you can imagine how everybody looks. So yeah, I mean, you feel great, and you befriend people that sit next to you. So at dinner time, there was a gentleman that sat next to me, and I started talking to him. And as you see, I like to talk to people, and so I connected with him, and he started asking questions. So I said, "Are you traveling?" I said, "Yeah, of course." And he was here to heal. He was there to heal because it was healing. He believed in Ayurvedic medicine, and he said, "Have you been?" And I said, "You like to travel?" I said, "Yeah, that's And he said, "Did you go to Rhode Island?" I said, "Of course." "And did you visit the mansions?" I said, "Of course, that's what you do in Rhode Island." "And did you go to the Marble House?" And I said, "Of course, that's one of..." He said, "Well, it looks very nice, but it was very cold." That's why I'm telling you, that's a connection.
I specialize in Newport. I've been in every mansion in Newport.
So I said, so I didn't understand what he was telling me. I said, "Did you live there?" He said, "Yeah, I lived there as a child and later on." So he said, "My grandfather built it." And I said, "Was he the architect?" "No, he was a Vanderbilt. I talked to a Vanderbilt, and I had no clue. I mean, he looked like hell with the sesame in his hair, And I have to say that, why am I telling you this? Because he lived in this magnificent place, and he felt, and he tells a stranger, but at this time I was his best friend, he invited me to come to his mansion on Fifth Avenue, because you connect to people, and it's not enough to live in a mansion. That's why I said this, because when you feel so warm and so welcome, that's the most important thing.
Resonated very strongly with me, so I didn't mean to get too distracted on this. It was just important.
What I think is wonderful about the Wilburton is that the people who lived here, James Wilbur took over. It was built by Albert Gilbert in 1902, and then James Wilbur was the owner of the bank that had the mortgage. And so Gilbert made a bad investment in silver and lost the inn, his home, within 10 years. He bought it probably in 1898. By the time it was built, it was 1902, and by 1910, James Wilbur was the owner, and Gilbert died. So it was not a long... He worked so hard to make this magnificent home, but he didn't get to enjoy it. But Wilbur was a Victorian gentleman who had only one son, and the one son married a woman, and they motored in Europe and left their one son here. So the boy who really spent the most time here was an only child who lived on the third floor of the mansion and ate with the staff and was sent to boarding school at 9. And his widow is 92 and lives in the gardener's cottage, and she's a very special lady for both my father and I hope she'll be here tonight. But she's told us how he did not enjoy growing up at the Wilburton because it was a very lonely, cold place. And now our parents have infused the inn with such a love of family. Max was only 3 when they bought the inn, so there was always a young child running around, and we have so many family reunions here, and there's so many dogs, and there are babies, and there's family, and it's vibrant. And I'm so happy that this beautiful mansion isn't just a formal castle on a hill and foreboding, and it's the architecture is so beautiful, but it's the spirit of the place that's very, very welcoming and inviting for all people, and I appreciate that you get that. I wanted to introduce Kevin. So Kevin and I wrote a musical together in grad school at NYU, and it was called In Trouble, Waka Waka. And tonight we're going to sing some songs from In Trouble. But I want to thank him because he is such a good artist and such a sensitive person. He came up for only a weekend when we were doing our writing together.
In 1999.
1999, and he absorbed the spirit of my parents and the running it in. And we performed it for our thesis musical, and the man who's playing Dad tonight played my father in that thesis musical. He's a fine New York actor, and he did such a beautiful job playing my father in that musical that I brought him back up to teach him another musical about my father. And when my mother was sick, we were driving to New York to go to a cancer center in Manhattan, and we pulled out the tape of In Trouble that we had written so long ago, and it resonated so beautifully 15 years later that we put on a party here for her, and we staged it right here with actors from New York and family, and we put on this musical, and we had a party of a life, and everybody was told to wear pink and sparkles, and it was really 3 weeks before she died, and some of the guests who are coming here tonight that you'll meet were there at Mom's party, and it was such a spectacular celebration, and people told us that our family put the fun in funeral. And it's really true. When we had a reception for my mother 3 weeks later,
To celebrate her life.
it was a celebration of her life. And I believe that the inn and all the joy and you coming here and you sharing our story with others is a extenuation of our mom's love of hospitality in Vermont and family. And so I just want to thank you for really sharing that. So, okay. And now, the featured attraction. Take it away, Dr. Albert Levis.
Thank you for participating in this introduction. And I want you to feel comfortable to continue sharing as we're experiencing here something educational and something a little difficult to understand. It is about the concepts that got me motivated to climb this hill 30 years ago, and to do it with a vision, which is pretty dramatic. A suburban psychiatrist climbing this hill and staying with it for all these years through economic reversals and difficulty of being an innkeeper. But we did it, and today we're celebrating the launching of the ideas that brought me here 30 years ago with a vision. And now we have the success of validating that research that inspired me to be here. And we have the beginning of transforming the inn from just another friendly family place into launching a new paradigm, which I like to think is the scientific moral paradigm. The scientific moral paradigm. Morality has been delegated to metaphysics, and our psychology today is agnostic. It does not have an understanding of the human being as motivated by anything else other than sex and power, aggression. That's the Freudian concept of the unconscious. And we're redefining the unconscious as the spiritual need that we all have that inspires us to be creative, as a need to resolve conflict. Morality then becomes the key motivational force. We're reclaiming it from religions, and we're saying that religions are pioneers in psychology of conflict resolution, and religions discovered, and this is what we're going to see in the sculptures, how to improve family relations. And they didn't have a manual for happiness, but religions are real discoveries of how to treat each other in a family. And so I started this theoretical point when I was recovering or healing myself from the traumas of the World War and the Holocaust in Athens, Greece. As a kid, I experienced the craziness of the world, and I was always wondering, how can we understand behavior better? And I found myself finding a meaningful paradigm in this classic book about Greek mythology, and seeing the Greek mythology presenting a possibility of integrating all religions based on understanding a pattern that repeats in 5 generations of Greek gods, and in that looking at something that is scientific, because periodicity is about science. And so I started with the study of the Greek mythology as having a pattern that had physical dimensions. And the puzzle for me over the years has been understanding how there are physics and logic in the unconscious by seeing a pattern that manifests in all creativity. And creativity became the object of my study. And when 30 years ago I bought the Inn, I was about to finish the publication. This was the book that gave me the Inn, Conflict Analysis, the Formal Theory of Behavior. And at the same time, unlike other theories, it came with a workbook of using creativity for self-discovery and completing a program that is both educational, diagnostic, and therapeutic. And I felt at that point that we had captured something that is very useful, because it worked with patients and it could heal the person in a short period of time. So I had the validation in my clinical experiences, and I felt the vision and the challenge and the mission was to get this message out. So over 30 years, I managed to stay with the vision, kind of silently, because my fellow professionals couldn't understand my language. It was cumbersome to show them the exhibits. And I gradually put together more and more validations and evidence that the mind is measurable, predictable, and it gives us a totally new psychology. A new psychology that is based on the unconscious, resolving conflict as a physical, measurable phenomenon. As a phenomenon that resolves conflict in 6 steps, like Genesis, which covered 6 days of creation. But now we have these 6 emotions that create resolution. And also that there are differences between the Greeks and the Jews in the way they resolve, which are my 2 identities as both a Greek and a Jew. And I saw antagonism in the Greek model, where the mother gives a knife to the kid in the Greek creation stories and says to the kid, "Poke your father." And the difference with the Greek, the Jewish tradition, in which the mother says to the kid, "Listen to your father. And if he wants to sacrifice you, carry the wood." And so you see alternative ways of resolving becoming for me the paradigms that I had to reconcile. You have the process of coming to a resolution, but then you have different ways of resolving. So these were the 2 physical phenomena that created science coming into behavior. And so I bought the Inn, and I went to the lawyer and incorporated the Inn as art to science. And you know, about education, the core curriculum is about the humanities and the sciences. But what does the university consider as integration of humanities and sciences is superficially talking about history and literature, and then doing physics, the sciences on the other side. But these are unintegrated. And what is phenomenal about our new moral paradigm is that it integrates science and morality. And it brings to psychology a new definition of the unconscious, not aspiring for sex and power, like Freud said, but aspiring for conflict resolution. And the secret that I have identified is that the unconscious has three key words to resolve conflict, which are based on physical phenomena. These are the phenomena of balancing the trays of a scale. When you have weight on one tray, that is creating the conflict. There are three ways of balancing it out. One is removing the weight and bringing back the balance. Another one is putting weight on the other tray. And the third is moving the weight on the fulcrum. Now, the equivalent in an emotional way are presented in the images of an artist by the name Gorski, whom I have collected, to just demonstrate that in my first lecture to the Medical Association in New Haven. And here you see the ways of balancing the trays of a scale. If the mouth is obstructed by fingerprint, okay, there are three ways that the person can find balance. One is screaming, one is feeling loved, and one is crying in the center of halos and shimmering crosses, finding religion. And these are the three moral ways of resolving conflict. Greece discovered, or the Aztecs discovered, the life sacrifice of the person, which is obstructing the person. The person is vulnerable to being in a game and losing the game and being sacrificed on top of the pyramid, losing his heart. In India, you have the idea of asceticism being feeling loved by sitting back, relaxing, breathing deep, doing your yoga exercise, and feeling good and feeling loved. And the other way of responding, one is screaming, one is feeling loved, and the other one is making a sacrifice, a compromise. And this is the three discoveries of three different cultures. Greece discovered how to transform matriarchy to patriarchy, and men, like in the Homeric epics, bringing back in the Iliad a runaway wife, and improving the concept of a wife as Penelope, the loyal wife. India discovered how to respect women by cooperating with them, respecting them as sacred cows and leaving them alone on Main Street or on the beach. And Judea discovered how to neutralize women, having this is thank you for intervention. This is the reality. Yeah, but the Abrahamic family is based on the fact that the woman, a mother, let her husband sacrifice his son. And my respect to Sarah for being able to transform herself from the Greek mother, who is cruel, by saying to the kid, disrespect your father, kill him, to the Jewish mother who says, respect your husband, respect your, the ultimate love object is the divine. And so Judea did a very important thing in the world, lowering the antagonistic role of a woman in the marriage and establishing the father-son covenant. Now, the Messianic religions reverse that kind of power structure by establishing the covenant between mother and child. So instead of saying God is with the father and the son, the Messianic religion says God is with the mother and the child. And so the politics of family become religions, and religions become temples in every central square. And they're inspiring people to the norms. And the norms is what is determining conflict. If you are moving to power, you have a sense of guilt if you are transgressing, like Trump, about what is power, what is authority, what is permissible. If you're oppressed, you're again experiencing conflict by losing power. So the idea is being able to understand that norms that are evolving according to the religions of the world, changing from culture to culture, determining the individual psychology by the individual being in the normative system, experiencing conflict and needing to resolve it by adjusting to the culture. On the other side, the norms evolve in a predictable way on the map of cultures. And this is what we're going to see walking the sculptures. We're going to see the evolution of paradigms. And the final station in this, the beginning is a wizard who is crying, and he says, how come after all my stories the world is not living happily ever after? And then we're walking and finding out how to shift paradigms from the stories, the content of stories, to what is universal in our stories, which is the plot of stories. What is universal is the creative process. And to exemplify the significance of that, the Holocaust Memorial is celebrating the 20th century as the century of misleading stories. And two stories are Jewish. One is Marx and one is Freud. And the third is Hitler. And all of them were reacting to Darwin's theory, which is a theory of biological evolution, forgetting about morality and driving people to power games and universal solutions. So Marx is a good socialist Jew who says, what is justice, morality, should not be the way that things are, but changing the world and bringing about this economic revolution. And Freud said, another good Jewish boy who should have been, thinking more logically, rather than arbitrarily saying, oh, everybody is Oedipus, and everybody wants to be antagonistically relating, and justifying a theory of sexuality rather than morality. And then Hitler thought that he was helping the world by killing everybody who is Jewish or defective, and arbitrarily determining that moral values for the good Nazis was to eliminate Jews and gypsies and people who have disabilities. So these are misleading stories. Now, what is the alternative to the misleading stories? I have a simple alternative, which is the spiral case, which I call Jacob's Ladder, which is the sculpture of conflict resolution. And on top of it, I found Gorbachev as a way of symbolizing his theory of perestroika, glasnost, which means openness and restructuring. And then I also put my head over there next to him, because I'm trying to say to the world, we have a new paradigm. And the new paradigm is understanding conflict resolution as a science and integrating our paradigms as alternative ways of resolving. But folks, don't get misled by stories. Stories are wonderful, entertaining, but the essence of the stories is the need that we all have to figure out how to optimize conflict resolution, not by following one story or another. Melissa is like Dorothy and Toto, leading us down the yellow brick road. And we are all characters. We're having different ways of needing help, not having no confidence in our head, like Scarecrow, not having a sense of being able to trust and love like Tin Man, being aggressive like the Cowardly Lion. The lion is aggressive, and because aggression is something very fearful, the person who is aggressive is also scared of aggression, so he's cowardly. And I'm trying to say to Trump in my blog about educating Trump, there is hope for you. If you diminish your aggression, you stop being paranoid, you stop distorting, you stop being defensive and putting all the money into military rather than into healthcare and education. And in this blog, I'm introducing the formal theory as a way of healing the world. The world today is absolutely chaotic, conflicted, because people are inspired by religious divisiveness. And be that in this country, the politics are determined by Republicans fostering traditional values based on the church, and Democrats wanting to move the world beyond it. But the whole world is terrorized by this arbitrary paradigm that Muhammad created, which says, we are superior and the others are infidels. And the idea is being able to help Islam, because Islam is divided, because they have suppressed the role of a woman, because they have suppressed, because of the anxiety, the capacity for people to express criticism. And they do not like press just as much as our friend Trump doesn't have capacity to tolerate press. And this is part of a syndrome. Aggression and paranoia go together. All right, folks, this is a good introduction. And you're here at a historical breakthrough where finally I'm taking initiative at my 80th birthday to launch this model of thinking, which is supposed to change psychology to a moral science, supposed to change religion, integrating them, respecting them as discoveries of science, but recognizing that they have pathologies. And that religious people, if they care about people, they have to get their minds together to be able to introduce science into the moral paradigms. So let's consider the awesome task of the second phase of the Wilbert, and stay being our friends in spite of my being a revolutionary. Thank you. Would you like to comment about it before we go outside?
I think it would be really helpful if you guys have questions. Dad's theory is incredibly integrative and broad, and has, he touches about religion, he touches about politics, touches about psychology, and he also mentioned, the plot of stories. And I think it might be, you might wonder, what is the plot of stories? Where he talks about the wizard crying. And the wizard is really the Easter Island head on the grounds. And the wizard represents any god, whether it's Allah, whether it's Jehovah, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Abraham, Moses, it's God. And what is so interesting is that whenever you have orthodoxy and you have fanaticism, regardless what you're fanatic about, you have conflict because you believe that your way is the way and everybody else is wrong. So you either proselytize and need to convert them to your way, or you need to fight them so that your way triumphs. And I think in the name of God, we've had more bloodshed than anything. And so what Dad is trying to say is that rather than fight over whose God is right, what's universal to all these gods and all these creation myths of the different cultures is the conflict resolution process. And it's a 6-role process that's a roller coaster of emotions that actually is tied to logic, physics, and math, and simple harmonic motion, which are scientific laws that are predictable. You can look at them on paper, you can chart them. And so instead of just being dogmatic and saying my God is better than your God, so I'm going to kill you at a stadium or knock down your airplane or, make you unsafe in the world, just say no. All of our gods follow, and all of the people, everybody operates on this conflict resolution process on the micro and macro level.
So the theme of the launching of the new paradigm is that it heals the person and it can heal the world. Healing the person is a technology based on using creativity for self-discovery, which my son Max, for his thesis, helped me by putting it online. He created the software of this creative process. So you do your artwork online and you develop insights about your pattern as well as changes you need to make. And that works healing the person, and we have easy access to statistical evaluation of how people experience this process. So part of our workshop is about understanding the mechanism of this software, the creative process, healing the person. And I have 2 volumes. One is about my clinical case studies, a lot of clinical case studies. And the highlight of this book is seeing the syndromes of submissiveness and dominance. And then the other book is about the educational value of this concept of using creativity for self-discovery. And my hope and vision is that it will help people in the classroom. Everybody needs an emotional education, that it help people in the organization and the family. And the other technology that I would like to share in the workshops here is playing a game of cards, which I call moral monopoly. And you see on the table there by the coffee, the images of seeing the world as the 4 suits of a game of cards. The 4 suits are beautiful paradigms for different cultures. So we have 4 key cultures that represent matriarchy, patriarchy, asceticism, and monotheism, all integrated into a game of cards. And the king, queen, and jack are the families of the role model of the theories, of the religions. And the 10 cards become 12 cards of 2 stories, one mythology and the other one history. And what the cards allow the players to do is read the stories of each culture and question, do they resolve conflict? Do they resolve it according to the indication on the 4 quadrants, the 4 suits? And is the family story improving from one culture to the next? From matriarchy, which is very cruel, which sacrifices the person, to patriarchy in Greece, where you have powerful men and conflicts with women. And you continue to seeing the Indian family, asceticism and Buddhism. And then you go to the Judaic family, where you have less power for women, and you have the love coming from the divine, neutralizing women. But we have to respect women for what they are, as equals, and the healing message of the science is mutual respect. For every story to have a happy ending, or a just ending, you have to come to this concept of mutual respect. And one of the political leaders that I really like is Obama, because he said to people, mutual respect. And he hired his opponents in his government, his rivals, to become his partners in healing the country. So healing the world is with the technology of a game of cards. Healing the person is the technology of creativity. And the whole weekend that I'm planning for first time this week, and we have a brochure about it, starts with the learning about the creative process, seeing the art exhibits, 5 art exhibits on the grounds, to learn about the science, to believe, understand what is the creative process. The second part of the program is using creativity for self-discovery, or reading about cases of conflict resolution through this technology. And the third activity is playing the game of cards. And Melissa, who has been an entertainer for young kids, will make us feel like kids playing that. And look forward to working with you, having fun, and learning.
So I think we should take a break and you ask questions. You know, what does this raise for you? What do you feel, you know, what do you think? You know, before we, and then we'll go out and we'll stretch our legs and we'll see the exhibits. But I think it's important to ask questions.
5-minute intermission.
Okay.
Yes.
I understand, you know, the whole, what you're saying. My question is, it seems like, and maybe, again, it's my personal beliefs that need to be in the conflict resolution, that you were talking about religion and love as synonyms or synonymously.
Yes.
The same thing.
For
Is
me,
that right?
love is conflict resolution. Love has been defined by each one of my kids in a different way. Oliver has created bread. Max has created technology. Melissa has created music. And Tali has created murder mysteries.
All right, but that's the passion, but now getting into religion.
Yes, religion.
You're saying that
yes.
I mean, you can have love without religion, or you can't?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I think that morality is a science of love, of conflict resolution being love. And it comes in many different ways. We have a new way, which is with chocolate. And we have the concept of launching with a new installation I created this weekend. And he's a golfer like Tiger Woods, with his club way up in the air. They were ready to strike the ball. And then there is a little girl with a Degas sculpture of a dancer. And I see that as my granddaughter, who is a little dancer, my only granddaughter. I have 7 grandkids. And I see her admiring me the same way that Melissa has admired me 30 years ago before launching. But with her Eureka play tonight, we have a festivity of a little ballerina admiring her father, Loncho. And then what is interesting is our friend from New Hope brought us a temple, a Greek temple like Parthenon, with a big ball in it, and an aeroplane coming from the ball. So what I was explaining to his grandchild is how launching the ball, it arrives at the Wilburton Inn as a universal paradigm, and with an aeroplane to bring it around the world, to bring the message to everybody. So, it's nice for our guests to love us with chocolate, and Tom Block has brought us chocolates for a lot of festive occasions, like the New Year's with bottles of champagne that are made of chocolate. So, folks, please comment if you like to comment at this point. Are you comfortable?
Yeah. Can you share a simple case study, like you have a whole book of them?
Sure.
So I have this person, they had this problem, they did ABC, that's what happened. Like a minute, so I can see
Sure.
the micro effect of the theory.
So what's so interesting, I will just jump in for a second. So my father created, I guess the theory came first, right? And then he was in private practice. He went to Yale for his residency, and then our family stayed in Hampton, Connecticut, which is a little suburb. And Dad, as a therapist, he ran a practice called the Institute of Conflict Resolution, Institute of Conflict Analysis. And he developed testing that went along with his theory. And every patient would go home, and before each session, they would do another test. And one of them is like a classic, pick a number, this goes from -3 to +3. So they're questions, Right. I expect too much of other people from -3 to +3. I don't let people know I have problems. I can end relationships that are hurtful. These are just simple questions. And when you answer it, you can find out, is the person, there are 4 different cultures, and there are 4 different characters of the Wizard of Oz, and there are 4 different personality types. And ironically, we have 4 children in our family, and each one of the children is a different personality type. So there's nothing wrong with being one or the other. They're just 4 different innate personality types. And then, as you do art therapy exercises, you're asked to color, and you don't have to be a great artist. Most people aren't. Some people enjoy the freedom of being a child and drawing. But there are art exercises that say, pick 2 animals and make a story. Give a title to your story. What were the animals doing before? What were the animals doing after? Do you recognize yourself in any of the animals? And it guides you through questions to say, that's me and my husband. That's me and my child. That's me and my boss.
And what is interesting about this psychological assessment, it measures the person both as having a relational modality among the 4 modalities as a diagnosis, but it also helps the person to reconstruct the syndrome of the 6 roles: stress, response, anxiety, defense, reverse, and compromise. By capturing stress, for instance, as conflictual memories from your childhood. Response is a mask. Anxiety is what is hidden behind the mask, your true feelings.
These are the art exercises. So you draw a mask, and it says, draw a mask. And then it says, what's inside the mask?
Behind the mask.
And what's inside the heart of the person with the mask. And so it's very non-threatening. It just sort of leads you gently.
But then you can put them together as a sequence. And this is the 6-role process that Melissa is making into a song, into music. And power management as a way of resolving it properly. Melissa has created not only the play, but the therapy.
Lots of songs.
And the challenge is to understand from the Greek mythology, repeating very cruelly along several generations, how religion came out of cruelty. In terms of the Greek religion, the Olympians, Athena, Parthenon, and so on, the temple that we have recreated in the chocolate, they are conflict resolutions. From the cruelest religion comes a resolution. And it's the process. So we have 2 aspects of this inventory, 2 aspects of this battery of tests. One is the inventory or the questions, which helps you to identify if you're dominant or submissive, cooperative or antagonistic. And the other one is to reconstruct your pattern, whatever it is, as a 6-role syndrome. And this is what is beautiful and helpful to the person, to identify his relational modality and also to emotionally bring it close to its relevance, understanding your conflicts and your resolutions, your defenses, all coming together.
Why don't you show, to answer Michael's question, this is full of different case studies from therapy. And these are people who Dad worked with in Connecticut in his office. But what's fascinating is this. Max went to Columbia undergraduate, then he went to Harvard Divinity School, and then he got his PhD last year in BU in psychology, social work, and sociology. And so he did something wonderful, which is taking all of the tests from here and putting it online, and then he compared it in terms of the results of the test taker to 2 other forms of therapy, and comparing, was it as effective, was it more effective? And so in today's world of healthcare, where there's not enough money, not enough time, and so most patients are just given pills and sent on their way, this is online therapy, online analysis, online heal yourself. And right now, you can take 2 of the tests for free on the website, or you can pay $25 and do all of it. Because for my father, it's not about the money, it's about disseminating. And what's amazing is, of the people who've taken the tests, they say, was this helpful? 85% say tremendously helpful. Was it, what is the value for you? It should be $200, not $25. So people who have never had therapy one-to-one, the time it takes to actually take the test is about 6 hours. So in 6 hours, you can really, truly, 4 hours, bypass the dependency on a therapist, bypass the time as somebody who's been in therapy forever. Like I certainly spent a decade and thousands of hours and thousands of dollars trying to save a marriage. If you just take the test online, you can go so much faster and find your own answers.
Melissa, where is it online?
It's on the Museum of the Creative Process website. There's a little tab for the exhibits and a tab for the theory and a tab for the testing.
I would like to ask you to read some of the comments of test takers that are in this group of 47. You have a great voice.
I'm a very poor reader. And a slow one.
The man next to you.
Kevin.
Oh, good.
Kevin.
Good.
We're putting in our theatrics.
He's my voice.
And do it in song, Kevin.
You want me to read these out loud now?
Sure.
Where am I starting?
Starting any place, yeah. These are the comments of the people.
Okay, so we're on this 354, right? And the heading is reflecting on the program as a whole. Please share your thoughts and feelings about this learning experience. So I'll just read.
Yeah, you can go randomly down the pages.
I'll start with the first one though, and I'll just.
Yes.
It really makes you look at yourself and asks what's going on in your life. I think they mean assets, right?
Assets.
Yes, instead of assets.
Oh, and assets. Okay. It was a good experience, and I hope I can improve my quality of life by making gradual changes to how I think about things. I think it was a great program to find out about oneself. It was kind of like digital meditation. I was able to recall and think about past memories and visualize them with the drawings. It was really intense. I don't think I discovered too much about myself that I didn't already know, as I am generally a very self-aware person. The collaborative aspect is interesting, the fact that I kept stressing collaboration, I learned that I am not as patient as I thought, because doing all those drawings was driving me insane. I think I'd rather do something like this in person rather than by myself on a computer. I was surprised at how hard it was for me to think of things to draw. I thought the hard part would be actually drawing them. Some of the things I drew really didn't have much bearing on my life because I didn't at first that they were supposed to. But in the latter parts, I did learn a little about myself. It might have been easier if I'd been doing the task in person, though. Then I could have talked my responses out with someone else, and I could have conveniently drawn the pictures by hand. This is very interesting. I did not know what to expect going on, but I actually had a lot of fun participating. I knew a lot of these things already, but some of my drawings really surprised me when I was asked to talk more in depth about them. I really enjoyed it. I am not very good in the drawing part of it, but I enjoyed trying and thinking about the different scenarios. Exaggerating some things and downplaying other things. It tells me that I've been hiding in a turtle shell for goodness knows how long and seem to have forgotten how to come out of it. I am already making some small, manageable changes to try and attain things that I want out of social relationships, but they are baby steps. This gives me an idea of how I can continue and where I can go with it. The better I know myself, the better I can be at showing others who I am. I have been given an insight to my character that I had not realized before. As much as I was trying to avoid it, I was becoming like my mother and father. I wanted to control my finances and blame my husband if things did not work out the way I wanted them to. I need to be less controlling and not bottle up my feelings. I need to be more understanding and listen to my husband's wants and desires as well. I need to experience life and not be afraid of it. I need to meet new people and be open to new friendships. Life is always changing, and I need to accept the change and either move with it or move beyond it. I feel like I opened my eyes to seeing how I react to certain things and situations. I have been able to pinpoint feelings that I have had or see myself in others' situations. I can tell how I have been acting and how I actually should be acting when it comes to certain situations or feeling different emotions. This was a great learning exercise. It is very thorough and covers a lot of ground. I love that in the end I can see my scores and how everything came together and was related in the end. Very interesting indeed.
So you can see a sampler, and it continues for 47, kind of commentaries. So it does work, and I'm comforted to see how easy it is to get these validations with tremendously significant, personally relevant emotions.
Albert, could I ask, are you still practicing Jew and Orthodox and more important than that?
I never had the bar mitzvah. And I went to the Wailing Wall and said to somebody, "Can you help me to bar mitzvah?" Doing a prayer. So that was all my Jewish training.
Do you believe in a God that lives outside His creation, or not necessarily, or?
It's a good question. I believe in the history of gods. I believe in the history of discoveries of God. And the final discovery is that God is inside of us. And that the unconscious has all the secrets of the Mosaic laws. And it has monotheism in the sense that there is science of giving us the possibility of having better choices in how to conduct ourselves. And all of these stories are really discovering yourself. And you can see the statements of the surprise. Write the story and learn about your pattern. And what you want to choose, change in your pattern. So for me, religion is good stories, but science can help us to integrate them and really find what is divine, rather than just how it was defined by Abraham. I'm comfortable about criticizing Abraham, but you see a big sculpture of his family down below. And what you're seeing is a terrible inequity, a terrible unresolved relationship between men and women. So I hate to say that, but I disagree completely with our Abrahamic moral paradigms, because they're based on a premise that thank you God for making me a man and not a woman. And diminishing the freedom of a person if one is female, and having to cover the faces is totally unacceptable for me as identifying God. It's absolutely unacceptable justifying violence, the Islamic terrorism, which is hurting Islam more than it hurts America. But it's based on Abrahamic inequity. And so I refuse to respect Abraham in the sense of still imposing on us the norms of the Abrahamic family of 5,000 years ago.
Does pantheism have a place in your paradigm?
Pantheism is discoveries. You have to integrate all the religions as an evolution of the divine. So the divine for the Aztecs was a woman who had 4 heads of eagle, who had a necklace of several hands, hearts, and skulls, who had a skirt of intertwined snakes, and she had feet that were talons. And she is the one who is in the center of the Mexican flag today as the eagle and the snake, where the eagle is the mother goddess and the snake is her victim, you. And so you can see the tremendous polarization and inequity of our cultural paradigms. I prefer the Greek gods, especially Athena, as a virgin, who is the representation of a good wife and a woman. Actually, she's virgin, so she's not a wife, but she's the model of the family values of the loyal wife, modest wife. And I kind of not like Buddhism or asceticism, because a woman is not just a sacred cow. She is also a sacred bull. And you have to put the two at parity. And you know, Buddhism evolved in China into restraining women's feet. In Japan, it became a geisha. So we have redefinitions of the divine, redefinitions of how to be a man or a woman.
By pantheism, I perhaps, I mean, we're not on the same wavelength. Pantheism to me is very scientific. It really says that God is in his creation, and the creation is God. That they're one and the same. That table is part of God. You are part of God. The camera.
All right, I agree with that. I'll go pantheism. Creation is, you know, in all our stories, in all the figureheads. On the other side, we have no interest in how the cosmos was created. We have no interest in finding the physics of the cosmos. This has nothing to do with religion. It's all of the religions begin with a creation story, but these are fantasies of people. Nobody was there to witness God in 6 days creating anything.
Yep, but pantheism would take the politics out of religion if people believed it, because there really is no politics to it. It's scientific. And that's,
So pantheism isn't like a religion that believes in many gods?
See, I think we're in territory
Yeah.
where we all differ. We're all trying to give names
No.
to something totally abstract,
Pantheism-
and I don't think any of us are talking the same
Pantheism
language.
is the belief that God is a part of his creation, that everything is a part of God. That literally that.
But is it one god or is it multiple gods?
Well, how could it be multiple gods if everything is a part of it?
Pantheism could
It's
be,
got to be one God.
God is the process that is in all stories, and all stories have a process of creativity as this pursuit of resolution. But there are many different ways of resolving. And if we're scientific, we have to acknowledge that all resolutions are there, but they're not necessarily the optimal resolution. And we have to figure out how to get what is tikkun olam. Tikkun olam is healing the world by identifying God in an abstract language that all of us can agree about.
All right, so suppose some person out there goes online and does all the 6 hours of whatever, okay? And they they discovered their patterns and the kind of personality there and that kind of thing. The next step, how do they implement change if they want to change that?
They can bring this to the therapy.
Oh,
And
all
give
right, so they
them-
still have to go to therapy, in other
Well,
words.
you can talk about it within a peer group.
Okay.
My vision is to bring this into the counseling department of every university and have that as a course that you can get some credit for in your education, but not have to pay for a fee. Other than pay maybe $25 for the testing online.
But also to come here, like what we want to do
And support afterwards.
We have retreats now, like this month we're doing it this weekend, but then we're also doing it in August. And every month we have retreats here. That is
How
a
long?
standing.
Weekend? A
It's a
week
weekend.
long?
It's a weekend.
Weekend.
So like the way Kripalu and Omega are beautiful retreat centers that have midweek classes and weekend
Okay.
classes. Right now, the Wilburton is many different things. We have vacation rentals, so we rent our houses for family reunions or girls' getaway weekends. We also rent our beautiful mansions for yoga retreats and spirituality retreats. So in addition to having the bed and breakfast experience, the family reunion house rental, and we rent our homes right now to a lot of thought leaders like Harvard and MIT and Yale. We have a lot of intellectual retreats for other teachers. So we're going to incorporate monthly retreats with us as an option, for guests if they want to be a part of it. So that way it's just another element of the Wilburton's identity in addition to what we do already. And that's going to be a great program. I think everybody should take a little stretch break and a coffee break. And then I want to just talk about the course of the day. It's 11:30 now. We have lunch at 1. That will be here at the Wilburton. If the rain holds, what I would love everybody to do is take a nice stretch, get some coffee, use the bathroom. But maybe we could take maybe like a 45-minute walk on the grounds if the weather holds, and you can see some of these sculptures that we talked about, and then come back here for lunch. And after lunch, just enjoy Manchester and some free time for yourself. We have a list of activities in the area, and then we're going to have dinner at 6:30 tonight.